Hi, Rich. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
I am well. Great to talk to you today. Look forward to
Beautiful. Yeah, and thank you for being here. And you see, oftentimes I love to say this, and that's because I feel like it is important. You see, I want to thank you, Rich, for two things. Firstly, thank you for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. And I say this all the time because I feel like it is important. You see, I was on that particular road some months back, and by the roadside there was this mango tree, not attractive at all because it didn't catch my attention, and I just walked past it. But you see, just recently, okay, I was on that same road, and this time around, the mango tree caught my attention from a distance. And I got the urge to, move closer and have a good look. And when I moved closer, man, it wowed me because it's got a lot of ripe mangoes on it and it looks so beautiful. And I was like, wow, what a beautiful tree. Nature can be beautiful at times. The point is, the fact that you're on this platform right now, it shows that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing person that you are today. And that alone attracted me to you. Getting to read a little bit about you, your bio, and the stuff that you do, and your philosophies and your beliefs and all. It's amazing. And I had no other choice than to have this amazing person on the show. So thank you so very much, Rich, for investing in yourself. And secondly, thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it, man. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. So I am quite excited to have Rich on the show for some reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking, because I believe in order to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, Rich, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, not just knowledge, but the application of it. And you see, ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very important to me and even to the listeners. So the second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Rich on the show is for the sake of the listeners. Rich, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got a lot of informations out there, how to do this and how to do that, a lot of them out there. So these folks trust me for quality stuff. And when I was reading a little bit about you, I was excited because I believe our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Rich, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey. We are just so curious. We want to know how you got here. And afterwards, I've got some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Rich, over to you.
Sure. Well, I have a website called silenceteaches.com. That started I think in about 2015. But prior to that, I had been searching. I knew that my prayer life with God, my relationship with God, I thought it lacked depth. There was something missing. I just didn't know what it was. And I came across a book in late 2013 by a gentleman by the name of Amos Smith. And his book was called Healing the Divide, Recovering Christianity's Mystic Roots. And in his book, as I read it, he talked about a practice called centering prayer, which is kind of wordless, silent meditation where you're just sitting with God. You're not praying verbally, you're just sitting with God. And as I read that, it immediately attracted me. And I knew that that was kind of the missing piece that would help me with my relationship with God, would help me, instead of feeling like I was just skimming the surfaces, they would help me go deeper and it would help me. So I continued reading the book. I actually reached out to him on his contact page and we began a back and forth email dialogue. And we're actually friends to this day. And we talk once a month. I'm going to actually talk to him this Sunday. He's on the West Coast of the United States. But in his book, he talked about a practice called centering prayer, which he had been doing for about 20 years. So I began trying this practice for myself. And I began reading other books by other people that had written about centering prayer. And it was a practice that just really helped me. It helped me learn how to sit with God. It helped me learn to deepen my relationship with God. And then it's just really, since I've been practicing, it has produced kind of a ton of fruits. And it's not the practice. It's really, in centering prayer, we open to the presence and actions of God within us and let God act in us, and then just trust the inner nudges from God. So it's just been very transforming practice for me. And I just simply want to share it with others in case it can help them as it has helped me. And there's many different ways to sit with God and go deeper in your relationship with God. So if this practice doesn't work for people, I encourage people to find the one that does. But I mean, that's a little bit about me. Began this practice in late 2013, and all kinds of things really just started happening as a result of it.
Amazing. And you see, I understood everything you said, and I love the fact that I am also practicing it. You see, it was quite difficult for me some years back because I want to communicate with God all the time. But you see, I tend to find it difficult to communicate with Him when I am with people. And I just grabbed my Bible that day and I came across this um, writing from Paul where Paul said, "Be in the Spirit at all times and on every occasion." Then it occurred to me, every occasion? Does that mean when I am cooking I can pray? And I am doing something else I can pray? Really? So have I been ignorant all these years? Then now you just even help me with the name for it. I don't know the name for it. All right. But I just know that I take silent prayers. And so when I'm in the midst of folks, I've been talking to my father and they know nothing about it. So I love the fact that you put this stuff in perspective for me, and that's amazing. So let us just buttress more on it, okay? So let's start with this. For someone who wants to start with the centering prayer practice, how do they begin with the prayer practice?
Okay. Should I first describe a little bit about what it is and how you do it?
Sure.
Can I do that first? And then I can talk about, how do you start? So centering prayer has been around since the early 70s. Now, the idea of just quietly sitting with God is obviously much older than that. It goes back to Jesus and even before Jesus, the idea of just silently sitting with God. So sitting quietly with God has been around for years. Centering prayer was created by three Trappist monks, or three Catholic priests created centering prayer in the early 1970s. And it's considered two things. It's because it is considered meditation, but it's also considered a relationship, and that we're opening to the presence and actions of God within during our silent sit. And then how you do the practice is you sit comfortably with your eyes closed. And then to begin your practice, you interiorly introduce what we call a sacred word. It's usually one or two or three syllables. So it could be love, it could be Jesus, it could be ocean, it could be the beach. And that just signifies you're letting go of your current thoughts and just opening to God. And then as you're sitting there in silence, when you begin engaging your thoughts, and what I mean by that is when you begin thinking about what you're going to do after your sit, if you have errands to do or things that you need to get done, you begin to realize I'm now thinking about what's going to happen in my life and my planning and plotting. I'm not sitting with God anymore. You just reintroduce that word back into your mind interiorly and let go of your engaged thoughts, and then let go of that sacred word. And you just do that when needed as you're sitting in silence. So that's how you do the practice. And I'll say as simple as that, but the idea of sitting in silence is not so simple for some people. But that's how you do the practice. And then in terms of, how does one start? I would say take baby steps. So if the idea of sitting in silence just it seems too daunting for a long period of time, you don't have to make it a 15 or 20-minute sit. Just try 1 to 5 minutes and see how it goes. And I would say if it's a practice you want to try, maybe commit to 30 days, make it the first thing you do in the morning before you do anything, and try it for 1 to 5 minutes and see how it goes. And then after your 30-day period, if you find it's a practice that seems to resonate with you and work well, continue it, but perhaps lengthen how long you're sitting to 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15. And then after a while, if you begin to really enjoy the practice, I would even say I do 2 sits, and I do a sit later in the day in the early afternoon, and add a second sit because the second sit is really like a reset and a recharge, and you're just kind of resetting and reconnecting to God many hours later from your first sit. And that way you're always connected to God. I'd like to say, I mean, God is with us at all times anyhow, but these sits have a way of resetting you and reconnecting you in the morning to begin your day. And then many hours late, 5 or 6 hours later, if that's when you choose to do it, you're resetting and saying, here I am again, God, and that sit. And then I want to finish the second half of the day as well as I started the first half. So that's a little bit about the practice, how long it's been around, and how you do it. But then that the idea of sitting in silence has been around for thousands of years. It's not a 50-year-old practice.
That's right. Jesus practiced that often. He was always alone in the wilderness, and you see, I love this topic of prayer and this style because, man, prayer is very important, man. I tell you. You see, I came across this quote from a great man, and he said, without man, God will not. And without God, man cannot. So what that means is God needs us to pray for him to do what he needs to do on earth. And without God now, man can never accomplish the things that God wants to accomplish on earth. Just like when he said, if my people would just, are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, then I will turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear them from heaven, forgive their sins and heal their land. So we have our own role to play too. We have to pray so that God may do what he needs to do. But without God, we cannot do anything, just like Jesus said. So I feel like it's a very important one, and it is good to learn different style and practices or practice of prayer. That's a good one. Okay, we have 2 more questions to go. Okay, so you mentioned fruit earlier while you were talking. So what are the fruits of centering prayer? Can you talk to us about that?
Sure. And I think the neat part is they're unique for each person. God knows what we each need. So fruits I've experienced might be very different from fruits you or others will experience. So as I look back on centering prayer and then come forward into the future, it definitely has healed and transformed me. I would say I'm a much more confident person in myself. I'm more willing to try and do new things. So many of the things I'm doing now were not even on the radar. I started practicing centering prayer in late 2013. And after that, I have a website, silenceteaches.com. I do one-on-one coaching. I do some speaking. I published a book in August of 2020 called Sitting with God, A Journey to Your True Self Through Centering Prayer. I've written, and I've even let my website expand into from a weekly meditation to weekly meditation, book reviews, interviews with interesting people, coaching, a speaking page, a books page, and a resource page that I put stuff on there that I think will help people. So just a lot of confidence to get out of my comfort zone and do things. And I think it's also it's giving better at listening to people and giving them the space they deserve when I listen to them, and not be so quick to be critical or make judgment. Just give people the space they need. And and the last one I'll mention, and there's been a lot, but I'll say is an excitement for life. Not that I wasn't excited to live life before centering prayer, but now I'm just really excited, like what's going to happen today? What neat things will I experience today? I just have an excitement for life that I didn't have before. So those are 3 that definitely come to mind, but there's been a lot. So the neat part is I think anybody that has this type of practice or a similar practice probably will experience fruits that are unique for them. They might be similar to mine, or they might be completely different.
That's right. I got that.
They're all from God. And they're all from
Yeah.
God. I mean, it's not centering prayer. Centering prayer is just the practice that opens us up to God, and then God acts within us. And I think of this time as a reverse prayer. I'm not praying, God's praying in me, and I'm taking the time to slow down and just be with God and let God pray in me.
And you see, that's why I pray in the spirit all the time. Because, when we pray in the Spirit now, that's the Spirit of God praying through us, for us.
Right.
I got that. That's a great one, man. I love that. Okay, so to bring this to an end, Rich, what would you like to leave the audience with? Like a final thought. And to those folks who would like to reach out to you, learn more about all we've discussed so far, how can that be possible?
Sure. I'll just encourage people to try a practice like centering prayer. So just try it for 30 days, make it the first thing you do in the morning, and just try it for 1, 2 minutes and see how it goes, and then reevaluate at the end of the 30 days. So I'll say try a daily dose of silence first thing in the morning for 1 or 2 minutes and see what happens, but give it a chance of 30 days. So that's what I'll be my challenge to your listeners, is to try a daily dose of silence. And then in terms of the best place to find me is my website, silenceteaches.com. And when they subscribe, I have a free centering prayer ebook that's very easy to read that will share a little bit more about this practice for those that are just curious.
Great one. I got that. So that's going to be the end of the show, Rich. Thank you for coming. And thank you for explaining this stuff to us. It means a whole lot, man. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.